Is there really a growing wealth gap between red and blue states, or is the story more complicated than headlines suggest? From income levels and job growth to taxes, housing, and cost of living, the divide appears deeper than ever. In this video, we're breaking down the real numbers behind America's red versus blue wealth gap, separating political narrative from economic reality, and revealing what it actually means for everyday Americans. 1. GDP versus household wealth, a misleading comparison. At first glance, blue states appear wealthier. States like California, New York, and Massachusetts dominate national GDP rankings. They host global financial centers, Silicon Valley tech giants, and elite universities. However, high GDP does not automatically translate to widespread household wealth. GDP measures total economic output, not how evenly wealth is distributed or how far income stretches. A state may generate enormous revenue, yet residents face extreme housing costs, high taxes, and steep living expenses that erode purchasing power. Red states often show lower aggregate GDP but stronger affordability metrics. A household earning $85,000 in Texas or Tennessee may achieve higher real purchasing power than a household earning $130,000 in California or New York. When adjusting for cost of living, income disparities shrink significantly. 2. Cost of living alters the equation. One of the largest drivers of perceived wealth inequality between red and blue states is housing. Coastal blue states face chronic supply shortages driven by zoning restrictions, environmental regulations, and limited land availability. Median home prices in some blue metro areas exceed $1 million. In contrast, many red states maintain more flexible land use policies, allowing supply to respond to demand. The result is a dramatic difference in wealth-building opportunities. Home ownership is one of the primary vehicles for middle-class wealth accumulation. In states where home prices are relatively accessible, more families build equity earlier in life. In high-cost states, younger generations are often locked out of property ownership, delaying or preventing asset accumulation. 3. Tax structures and wealth retention. Blue states generally rely on progressive income taxation to fund expansive public services, infrastructure, and social programs. While this can enhance public goods such as education and transit, it also reduces net disposable income, particularly for higher earners and business owners. Red states frequently adopt lower tax models, sometimes eliminating state income taxes entirely. Lower taxes increase retained earnings for entrepreneurs and high-income professionals. Over time, that retained capital compounds through investment, real estate acquisition, and business expansion. The wealth gap narrative often overlooks how taxation policy shapes long-term asset accumulation rather than just annual income. 4. Industrial composition shapes income levels. Blue states dominate high-income sectors such as technology, finance, entertainment, and biotechnology. These industries produce enormous compensation at the top end, contributing to visible wealth concentration. However, they also create stark internal inequality. Red states often rely more heavily on energy, manufacturing, logistics, agriculture, and emerging tech hubs. While average wages in these industries may appear lower than Silicon Valley salaries, the lower cost structure can produce comparable living standards. The industrial base in red states often supports broad employment growth, even if it generates fewer ultra-high earners. 5. Migration patterns reveal economic preferences. Domestic migration trends over the last decade show significant population movement from high-cost blue states toward lower-cost red states. Individuals and families frequently cite affordability, lower taxes, and housing access as primary motivations. When residents move from one tax base to another, wealth distribution shifts. Capital flows follow individuals. If higher income earners relocate, they bring investment portfolios, business operations, and consumer demand with them, reshaping regional wealth dynamics. 6. Wealth concentration versus wealth distribution. Blue states often contain the highest concentration of billionaires and ultra-high net worth individuals. Silicon Valley and Wall Street generate extraordinary fortunes. However, wealth concentration at the top does not necessarily translate into broad-based prosperity. Income inequality metrics in some blue states rank among the highest in the country. Red states, while hosting fewer billionaires overall, may exhibit more moderate income distribution patterns. The absence of extreme concentration can produce a perception of narrower wealth gaps internally, even if overall state GDP is smaller. 7. Asset ownership and financial stability. Asset ownership, homes, small businesses, retirement accounts, serves as a stronger indicator of financial health than annual salary alone. In lower-cost environments, families may allocate more income towards savings and investments. In high-cost states, households often dedicate disproportionate income to rent or mortgage payments. This limits investment capacity and increases vulnerability to economic shocks. Wealth is not only about earning more, it is about retaining and compounding assets over time. 8. Public services versus private retention. Blue states argue that higher taxes fund superior public services, mass transit systems, public universities, healthcare programs, and infrastructure. These investments can enhance long-term economic productivity. The trade-off, however, is reduced private retention of income. The philosophical divide reflects two competing economic models: centralized public investment versus decentralized private capital allocation. The wealth gap debate often depends on which model one views as more sustainable over decades. 9. The role of housing supply constraints. Supply elasticity plays a central role in long-term wealth divergence. When housing supply cannot expand due to regulatory barriers, prices surge. Rising property values benefit existing homeowners but disadvantage new entrants. In blue states with tight housing supply, generational wealth disparities widen. Red states with flexible development policies allow broader access to homeownership. While rapid growth can create infrastructure strain, the relative accessibility of property remains a wealth equalizing mechanism. 10. The bigger picture. Two economic models. Ultimately, the red vs blue wealth gap reflects structural differences rather than simple success or failure. Blue states excel in innovation density, global connectivity, and high-income sector dominance. Red states often outperform in affordability, population growth, and business cost competitiveness. Purchasing power, asset ownership rates, migration flows, taxation policy, and cost structures all influence financial outcomes. Some households thrive in high-cost, high-opportunity environments. Others prioritize stability and affordability. The truth about America's red vs blue wealth gap isn't just political. It's economic, demographic, and deeply personal. Income, opportunity, affordability, and growth all play a role in shaping where prosperity rises or falls. If you want clear, data-driven insights about the trends shaping America's financial future, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you stay informed on what really matters.